The function. End of section. Almost everyone who has been in a church for any length of time arrives at the Bible holding a picture of this figure that the Bible does not give them. The picture is well formed: a name, Lucifer; a backstory, a high angel who fell before time began out of pride; a domain, a kingdom organized under him with ranks and territories; a job, to oppose God and to ruin human beings; and an outcome that is somehow still in doubt. The text starts somewhere else. It starts with a job, and only with a job, and the figure who does that job appears for a long time without a name at all. Said the other way, the text gives a function before it gives a name, and almost everything that goes wrong in popular treatment of this subject begins by reading the name back into the function. So the first thing the road has to do is recover the function. Open the Hebrew Bible at the first place this figure shows up in any developed form, and what is on the page is a courtroom. Job, chapters 1 and 2. It is said in something like a council. There was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before Yahuwah. Job 1:6. The sons of God, the B'nai Elohim, the heavenly beings who attend the one on the throne, and among them, the text says, came one more figure. Most English Bibles render the line, and Satan also came among them, which makes it sound like the proper name of a particular creature you already know. The Hebrew is doing something smaller and more exact. There is a definite article in front of the word, ha-Satan, and Satan is not a name. It is a noun. The text is not introducing Satan by name to the council. The text is naming an office. The adversary came among them. The prosecutor showed up for the court session. Look closer. The word translated Satan is Satan, with no capital and no proper name function in this passage. Look closer. The article is the mark of a role, not a name, and the apparent exceptions prove it rather than break it. The words that look like names but carry the article are titles and appellatives: Ha-Elohim, the God; Ha-Baal, the Lord Master; and most cleanly, Ha-Adam, the man, which becomes the name Adam at the very moment the article falls away. Ha-Satan is the same, not a name but a title wearing the definite article. The adversary, the prosecutor, the Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation Jewish communities used, agreed, rendering the noun with the Greek diabolos, slanderer, accuser, itself a function word. Through every appearance in Job 1-2 and Zechariah 3, the article is in place. The figure is not being named, he is being identified by what he does. And what he does is courtroom work. The verb Satan in its other appearances is used of opposing parties in disputes, Psalm 109:6, where Satan stands at the right hand to accuse, and of any kind of adversary in a legal or military sense. Behind the figure of Ha-Satan in Job stands a courtroom picture that any reader in the ancient Near East would have recognized, a council of the one on the throne and an office of accusation within it. He is the prosecutor. That is his job. The popular picture has him as God's cosmic rival, operating outside any authority but his own. The text has him as a functionary in a court he has to show up to. Walk on. Watch how the scene then unfolds, because every detail confirms it. The figure has to answer. He is not asked because he is mysterious. He is asked because he is being addressed by a court that has authority over him. The Satan offers an accusation. Job only fears you because you have hedged him in. Remove the hedge and he will curse you. And then comes the line that quietly resets the entire popular picture. Yahuwah said to the Satan, "Behold, all that he has is in your hand." Two things in one sentence. The Satan is granted access, real authority to act, with real consequences, in a real person's life. And the access is bounded. He is told the line he may not cross. He has no power to cross it. The chapter that follows is one of the most agonized accounts of suffering in any literature, and the agony is real, but the frame around it is unmistakable. The Satan operates inside an authorization. He has to ask, and what he is given is what he gets, and not a thread more. Chapter 2 repeats the structure, point for point. The Hebrew has the same syntax of permission, the same naming of a limit, the same structure of a power that has no autonomy. If you came to Job 1-2, expecting the cosmic rival picture, you have to do something to the chapter to keep it. Read past the article, ignore the counsel, soften the permission language, and treat the conversation as a literary frame around an essentially independent agent. The plain reading is what this Hebrew gives: a court, a prosecutor, a defendant, an authorization, bounded. The same picture appears smaller and quieter in Zechariah 3. English again drops the article and the office. The Hebrew keeps both, and so does the placement. The right hand was in the ancient Near Eastern courtroom, where prosecutors stood. The figure is in the prosecuting position, doing prosecuting work. Yahuwah rebukes him, and that is the end of the case. There is no cosmic war on the page. There is a courtroom with the case dismissed by the judge. Look closer, the place at the right hand, Zechariah 3:1, is 2 short verses, and the picture in them is exact. The Hebrew verb beneath to accuse is from the same root as the noun, Satan, sintet nun, which means the function is built into the syntax. He is positioned as adversary, to do the work of an adversary, and the place an adversary stood. The right hand of the defendant is where the prosecutor's place was in ancient legal procedure. Psalm 109:6 confirms it. Set a wicked man over him. Let a Satan stand at his right hand. Every detail says courtroom, and the case ends in 2 more verses. There is no negotiation, no extended conflict, no contest of power. The accusation is heard and dismissed. The defendant is cleansed by the judge. The Satan is real, and his presence in the court is real, and his accusation is the right kind of thing for a prosecutor to make. Joshua has just come back from exile. His clothing is described as filthy. The case is not nothing, and the judge has already decided to clothe him otherwise. The picture is sober and brief and decisive. Walk on, and then there is a place where the text seems at first glance to introduce the same figure without the article, and worth being honest about it before going on. No article. One text says Satan moved David. The other says God did. Honest readers have argued the relationship between those 2 verses for centuries, and good readers can still argue it. What is worth noting here is the simpler thing. The Chronicles verse is the one place in the Hebrew Bible where the word stands as a noun without the article. Some readings take that to mean a proper name is emerging late. Others read it as an adversary, still the function, perhaps even a human one. Still others read it as the Satan of Job and Zechariah, the article suppressed in the chronicler style. The text leaves room for more than one of these. What it does not leave room for is a Satan biography. The verse is brief and shows the same structure underneath. Even where the Satan is named as an instrument of incitement, the other parallel account says God moved David, and the relationship between the 2 is what every account of the Satan in the Old Testament leaves you with. A permitted figure, working inside an authority that is not his. And one objection worth meeting right here, since this is where it lands, because the figure's vocabulary sharpens across the exile. Job, then Zechariah, then post-exilic Chronicles. Some have proposed the Satan was borrowed from Persian religion, the dualism of Zoroaster, with its good God and an equal and opposite evil God. The borrowing is unprovable, and more to the point, the texts run the opposite way. Zoroastrian dualism gives you 2 near equal powers locked in war. The Hebrew Satan is never a rival at all. He is under Yahuwah, permitted, bounded, reporting to a court he has to show up to. If anything, the biblical figure is the deliberate refusal of the Persian one. A shared word would be alone. The theology is its contrary. 3 appearances then in the Hebrew Bible, Job 1-2, Zechariah 3, 1 Chronicles 21, and out of them comes a remarkably consistent picture, said now plainly. The Satan is real. He is not God's rival. He is not an autonomous agent. He has a courtroom function, which is to accuse, and he operates by permission of the one on the throne. He has access to a council he had to show up to. He has the right to make a case, and he has every bit of his power as an authorization rather than as a possession. He has at no point in any of these passages a name. He has a job, and the job is to stand and accuse. Now hold that against the picture you arrived with, because the gap is where the work of this book begins. If the popular picture were the canonical one, the Job chapter would have read very differently. A figure striding into the council on his own authority, sneering at God, threatening him, walking out and acting unilaterally. Nothing on the page is like that. The figure stands when called, answers what he is asked, requests permission to act, receives a limit, and does not exceed it. He is fearsome inside the limit. The text does not pretend he is not. Job's life is gutted, and the gutting is real, but the chapter has the figure on a leash. The leash is the entire point of those first 2 chapters. The book of Job is what it looks like for a real person to live through what a real adversary is permitted to do inside a bounded grant, and the rest of the book is the wrestling with the one holding the leash. It is never a wrestling with the one on the end of it. Walk on. So the function comes first. That is half the chapter. The other half is the names, because by the time the New Testament opens, the figure who appears in the Hebrew Bible as Ha-Satan is being called several different things, and worth knowing why. The number of names is sometimes pointed to as evidence of a developed Satan biography. Read carefully, it is the opposite. Every one of the names is functional. They describe what the figure does, not who he is in essence. The figure has many names because he does many kinds of work, and the New Testament writers, like the Old Testament writers, name him by the work. Start with the bridge, the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible that was the Bible most New Testament writers had grown up reading, translated Ha-Satan in Job and Zechariah with the Greek diabolos. The word means slanderer, accuser. Function, again. By the time you arrive in the Gospels, diabolos is the standard Greek title, the devil in English, and it is the Satan function carried over into a different language. The courtroom figure of Job 1 and the figure tempting Yeshua in the wilderness are named with words that mean the same thing in different vocabularies. Same function, different word. Other titles widen the picture without changing it. He is called Ho-Poneros, the evil one, in Yeshua's own prayer. Deliver us from the evil one, and through the letters of John. He is called the dragon and the ancient serpent in Revelation 12:9, the verse that gathers 4 titles into one breath. He is called Belial in Paul, 2 Corinthians 6:15, a word lifted from the Hebrew Bible's vocabulary for worthlessness and ruin. He is called Apollyon in the Greek and Abaddon in the Hebrew at Revelation 9:11, destroyer in either tongue. He is called the prince of the power of the air in Ephesians 2:2, the god of this age in 2 Corinthians 4:4, the ruler of this world in 3 sayings of Yeshua in John. Read them in order and one thing is consistent. They are all describing what he does, where he operates, what kind of figure he is in the work. Every one is a function title. It is the function behind Ha-Satan, carried into Greek. Ho-Poneros is the substantival adjective, the evil one, marking the figure by his quality. Draken and Ho-Ophis Ho-Archaios, the ancient serpent, are image titles drawn from the bestiary of cosmic opposition, pulled together in Revelation 12:9 with the article and a deliberate stacking. Beelzebul shows up in the Gospels as the name the Pharisees use for the prince of demons, Matthew 12:24. Whether this is a third-party name for the Satan figure or for a distinct high-ranking demonic figure is something the text does not actually settle, and a careful reading holds the question open. Belial, from Hebrew Belial, is Paul's pejorative for the figure in 2 Corinthians 6:15. The prince of the power of the air, the god of this age, the ruler of this world. Every one of these is a description of activity or domain, not a personal name. What you do not find anywhere in this collection is a proper name in the modern sense, a name that belongs to him as a person belongs to his. Even Satan in the English Bible is the Hebrew function noun left untranslated, gradually capitalized over centuries of Christian use until it began to function as a name. The thing that happened in English is that we started treating the office as if it were a person's first name. The Hebrew never did that. The Greek never did it. The translators did. It is a small thing that has had outsized effects, because once Satan is read as a personal name with biographical content, all kinds of biographical material can be projected onto it. Walk on, and then there is the one piece a careful reader has to hold open. Beelzebul. When the Pharisees accuse Yeshua of casting out demons, they say he casts them out by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, Matthew 12:24, Mark 3:22, Luke 11:15, which most readers take as a flat identification of the two. Read more slowly. What he is doing is a logical argument that works whether Beelzebul is the Satan or whether he is a distinct high-ranking figure. If demonic power is divided against itself, the kingdom of darkness cannot stand. The argument lands either way. The identification that Beelzebul is just another name for the Satan figure is widely held in Christian tradition, but the text itself preserves a small reserve. The careful thing is to note where the picture is settled and where it is held open. Most names of the Satan figure are settled, whether Beelzebul belongs to that list or is a different high-ranking demonic figure within his apparatus. The text leaves with a reserve. This book holds the reserve where the text holds it. End of section. Lay the whole picture flat then, before turning to the next thing. The figure first appears in the canon's own order of unfolding, as a function before he is a name. He is the adversary, with the article, a prosecutor in a heavenly court, granted access to make a case, granted authority to act within a bounded permission, never operating outside the one on the throne. By the time the New Testament writers begin, he has gathered an inventory of function titles: Diabolos, the evil one, the dragon, the ancient serpent, Belial, Apollyon, the prince of the power of the air, the god of this age, the ruler of this world, every one of which describes work he does or domain he operates in. He has, in the canonical text, no proper name in the modern biographical sense. The capital S Satan, in the English Bible, is the Hebrew title left untranslated and capitalized, not a name he was given. The biographical picture popular tradition has built, Lucifer, the bright fallen angel, the pre-creation rebellion, the elaborate cosmic empire, none of it is in the verses walk so far. It is built. The book will come back to where it was built and why. When the road reaches the prophets the building was hung on. For now the only thing to carry is the thing the text actually gives. A real figure with a real function, with real bounded access, with no name and no biography. Carry it forward the way the previous book had you carry the shut gate, and the keeper who failed his charge. It is a thing to hold for the rest of the walk, because everything the rest of this book does is measured against it. The figure ahead is at every turn smaller than the popular picture said he was, and at no turn smaller than the text gives him. He is fearsome inside his permission. He is exhausted in the end by the one who held the leash the whole time. And the road to that exhaustion runs through a garden where this figure, still without a name, appears next as a creature, asking a question.